I well remember, and it'll come up with the terms of reference for the new COVID inquiry. There'll be actually it's going to be announced next month, isn't it? Terms of reference to the commissioners are for the one that New Zealand first successfully petitioned the coalition government to launch. And the irony of all that is, can I just say that as I talk to you now, and this is how far behind the times we are, the British, the English, have already completed their inquiry. It was held in the open. Everybody was allowed to contribute to it, and they are about to have that reported back. In fact, the first report from their COVID inquiry says that the UK's pandemic planning meant COVID caused more deaths and economic costs than it should have, and that the UK government and devolved nations failed their citizens. Now, it said the UK planned for the wrong pandemic, a mild one where the spread of the new virus was inevitable, and this led to the UK turning to untested lockdowns. And part of the blame, it said, was groupthink by scientists and too little challenge from government ministers. However, it also pointed out that the UK lacked resilience with high rates of ill health and public services running close to, if not beyond capacity, and that by the end of 2023, 235,000 people had either died from or died with COVID. It's the first of at least 9 inquiry reports that the British government have undertaken. The British Parliament has undertaken, covering everything from political decision-making to vaccines, but that's the first of them. And frankly, I don't expect too much else to come back from New Zealand, to be honest with you. We'll see. But the point that I'm trying to make is there is the UK government holding an inquiry, with terms of reference. Everybody was able to contribute. It was held in public. There are 9 different areas it's looking at. All the things that we are looking at, it's looking at as well. There's the first of its reports back already. And it's ridiculous that we've got a secret inquiry that's happening at the moment, a secret inquiry of which we know none of the evidence because, well, we haven't been allowed to know, and it's part of the terms of reference for the Ardern government that you were never going to know either. And then you've got another inquiry which will deal with all the other stuff that the last inquiry, and the millions, tens of millions of dollars this is all going to cost, and how far behind we are the rest of the world on these matters. The United States has conducted their inquiry, again, held in public, held its public sector agencies to account, from the top of its public health scientists right through to the politicians who are making the decisions based upon that evidence. But can I just say that if I was to characterise the United Kingdom's pandemic planning report, that's just, well, as I said, the first part of that's just been reported back as I talk to you now. I wonder, it'll be interesting to see, just quietly, how much of the New Zealand media actually report this, just quietly. But groupthink by scientists and too little challenge from government ministers. What do you think? Now, well, and isn't that a constant refrain? And didn't we say it 2 years ago? But anyhow, doesn't matter. Pull that to one side. The reality is that we are going to have them. It'll be interesting to see if we can be as honest with ourselves as the United Kingdom obviously is with itself, and for that matter, the United States of America as well. But listen, if you had to describe the response of at least Western nations and European nations, with the exception, I think, was it Sweden or Denmark? No, it was Sweden, wasn't it? If you had to describe the reaction of the Western nations, and New Zealand was amongst it, and we had less of an excuse because we had plenty of warning. But anyhow, if you had to describe it in one word, it's that magnificent word, I think, of the 21st century that will forever describe government and government processes, and it's omnishambles. Omnishambles. Omni mean just, good God, it was a shit fight. Shambles was everything that a shambles suggests. So, omnishambles. I think we know that that's what the New Zealand inquiry come back. New Zealand was an omnishambles as well. And Gosh, here we are. Last night, I just read the latest report on attendance rates at school and how it's picked up a little, but not much in terms of attendance and of commitment to the education process. We are in the middle of 2024, the middle of July 2024, and we are still experiencing, in fact, an entire generation of New Zealand children will be inexpertly educated and will suffer lifelong learning difficulties as a consequence. As a consequence of, not as a consequence of COVID. Nope. As a consequence of government response to. And the loss of trust in our public institutions has been a constant refrain of these early decades of the 21st century. I'll tell you what, the response to COVID, and then after that, the continual lockdowns, which seemed to have no discernible effect. And then, of course, when COVID did arrive and people started to die, as they would, because it's a quite virulent virus, as we know, but it was the vulnerable, it wasn't normal, healthy people. So there you go. It is there on your website. The BBC is reporting it if you want to read the significant flaws in the UK's pandemic planning that COVID caused, as I said, more deaths and economic loss than it should have. That's the first report of their COVID inquiry. We're still waiting for ours.